So, I mean, you're Mike. You're also, as well as starring in this, you're also a producer as well. How exactly did you get involved?
So I found the script. I had just produced a film called MFA, and I had such a great time, and that was sort of a horror thriller. And so I just put out my feelers, and I told some friends that I was looking for another film that was sort of a horror thriller but had a message to it. And a friend of mine, Joe Benedetto, connected me with Jeremiah Kipp, and Jeremiah had this script and I read it and I loved it. And I said, Jeremiah, let's partner on this. And we did.
Okay, and obviously bringing in August as well, because he's obviously got a Disney background. How
Mhm.
how did you guys find him, and knew that he was right considering that background?
It was interesting. So we had a casting director that was helping us, Carolyn Sinclair, and then there was Jeremiah, obviously our director, and then myself at the time was, just sort of the lead producer. And we all made separate lists of who we saw in this role after we read the script. And all of us, August was on all of our lists. And so it just so happened that, and I started in Disney too. And so I knew that, sort of how disciplined those actors are. And also August had done The Nun at that point, so he sort of understood the horror genre. And we reached out to him and his mom, and both of them were just ecstatic. They had been looking for a project like this for August, so it was sort of the stars aligned, and it was and he did such a great job in the movie.
Yeah, he really did. You mentioned that this has got an important theme to it, and it's bullying, obviously. Um, did did either of you two suffer or any kind of that form of bullying when you were at school, or just to draw your experiences from?
Absolutely, yeah. It was very important to me that this was a film that sort of gave the horror fans what they wanted in terms of the scares and the monster and the special effects, but also that it said something that people would leave the theater or turn off the Shudder platform and really think about what the movie they had just seen. And so both August and I both talked about this. I mean, August was 12 when we filmed this. He's 14 now, and he's like a foot taller than he was when we made the movie. But he was getting bullied in school at the time. I'm not sure if he still is, but he was. And I remember when I was younger, I would get bullied. I was sort of the smallest one of my friend group, and I would get bullied just for my size. And so it was definitely something that we both connected with, and something that I drew me to the script to sort of tell the story using like that grim fairy tales sort of science fiction horror genre, but to also comment on something that's very real and affects a lot of people.
Yeah, and it also, I mean, I was quite delighted to see that. I mean, I'm obviously going to give something away here, that the bullies were actually girls as well.
Yeah.
What was the idea of like bringing, changing that? Because we're always used to seeing boys being the bullies.
hmm Well, I had known. It's actually funny. I met the girls that play the bullies, Bianca and Chiara D'Ambrosio. I met them at a board meeting for an anti-bullying organization that I'm a part of called Buddha Bullying. So that's actually how I met them. And then I read the script and I said, wow, wouldn't this be interesting? Originally, when I got the script, it was a story about a father and a son, not an older brother, younger brother. And the boys, I think it was one bully that was a girl and his girlfriend. And then there was maybe a boy or something. And I went to Jeremiah and I said, well, I know these twins, and this would be great if they could be the bullies, if we made them these like twin sisters. And that was very like The Shining to me. And so, but it's I mean, bullying is not just physical, it's mental, it's verbal. And I think that, these girls are tough, and they beat them up and they call them names. But we thought that it was, something that I love to do in films is I really love to take stories that have been done before and change them in a way to create characters that we don't usually see, different archetypes in different situations. And I love breaking stereotypes with all the movies that I do. I produced a dozen movies, and in each of my movies, I always try to have diversity. I always try to break stereotypes. I always have to try to have different forms of inclusion and representation. So this is just another form of that.
Good morning, August. Oh, good evening, August. It's morning for me. So
Nice to meet you.
You too. Okay, well, I want to get talking about the old Slapface game. Was there any instances where you actually did connect with each other?
No, we had a great stunt coordinator, Mac, who he's Keanu Reeves' stunt double in John Wick, so he really knows what he's doing. He took the safety on set really seriously, and we did it in a way with the camera angles where it looked like the slaps were coming, very making contact, but they really weren't. We felt safe the whole time. Yeah, it was fine.
Yeah,
but it sounded real and it looked real, and it was, and August was so convincing when he would turn his head and look at me like I just slapped him, that there were some times where I was like, oh shit, did I just make contact? But I didn't.
Well, it looked real. It did look real. And you have that obviously you play brothers, and you have that kind of bond as well. Was there any kind of bonding sessions behind the scenes to be able to cement that kind of relationship on the screen?
Yeah, actually, before we filmed anything, we all got together and we like created the backstory to Slapface. We like kind of created what we thought happened to the parents and where we got this trauma from before we even started filming. And we talked before then, and then in between scenes we would also chat and stuff. I remember telling him about like a comic I made and stuff. Yeah, we had plenty of time to like bond and everything, and it was really fun.
Yeah. I love comics, and August, he told me about a comic that he made, and he's so creative. He literally like pulls out this comic that he's making as he goes, and on set he's writing poetry, he's like making songs, and and I'm just trying to produce the movie, and I'm like, geez, this kid's so creative. We really lucked out with Augie. So even though he's late sometimes for interviews, I'm just kidding.
Let's talk about the monster as well. I mean, was you guys aware of, obviously Mike, you probably was, but August, was you aware of what she was going to look like before you started filming?
Not really. I mean, there was like a mini movie thing. There was like a little short. It was originally a short, Slapface, and I watched that. So I had an idea of what the monster would look like, but it definitely changed more on set. And on the topic of like bonding, the person who played the monster, Lucas Hassel, I got time to bond with him as well, because throughout the movie, as you've probably seen, like me and the monster, we like share a friendship that's kind of like mother and son, or like best friends, so we had time to like chat and everything, and it made the monster seem like less scary during filming too.
When Jeremiah, because the monster sort of has this like creature from the woods, but also like a maternal sort of presence. And when Jeremiah first pitched the idea of having a 6'5" like man named Lucas Hassel to play the monster, I was like, "Are you crazy? Like, what are you talking about?" And I'm just, we were so blown away by his performance and the nuance, and like August was saying, like the backstory that we all created about the monster and the brothers, and sort of the environment that sort of created this fantasy world. Lucas just brought so much to the character. For a creature that doesn't have any lines, that creature has such a presence and communicates so much through its body and its eyes and everything. And that was really fun to watch. There were moments that I saw watching, I would watch playback and I'm like, wow, that wasn't even on the page, but Lucas just brought so much to it that like it adds that extra element of weirdness and the bond between the kid and the monster.
Yeah. It definitely had a face that would keep me awake at night, I tell you that. How easy is it to leave, especially for August, actually, how easy is it to leave those images on set when you leave to go home, especially because you were only 12 when you filmed?
Well, I treat acting as just like playing pretend, and I just go there to pretend and have fun, and none of it really affects me, but I really enjoy it so much. It's my favorite thing to do, and I hope to pursue it later on in my life.
Okay, and I'm gonna have to wrap this up now, but for childhood monsters, childhood memories, was there any one in particular maybe you saw on TV that ever freaked you out?
It like glitched a little bit. I tried to figure out what the question was from the glitches. Sorry, could you repeat it?
Yeah, do you have any childhood monsters that freaked you out? So maybe from TV or anything that you saw?
Well, every horror movie scared me. I did not like watching any horror anything before I was on The Nun. And when I was cast on The Nun as Daniel, I found out how artistic that genre is, the horror genre and the thriller genres. And it's like, and I'm an artist too, so I really was able to connect with that and appreciate it. So ever since then, I just loved horror. And after The Nun, that's when I got Slapface.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I love old school horror. I love like Nightmare on Elm Street and Pumpkinhead and like the old school. And then growing up, I think the movie that left its mark on me was The Sixth Sense. I remember I saw that at a time.
Oh, I saw that one. Yeah.
I saw that at a time where I was like, I remember I was younger, and I remember getting ready for school in the morning, and I could swear that I was hearing ghosts. I was by myself, and I had just watched the movie the night before, and I'm brushing my teeth, and I'm like looking around in this, and I swear that I see like a handprint on the mirror, and that was a movie that stayed with me for a couple weeks after that.
Well, thank you so much for your time, the pair of you. It's been a nice way to start my morning.
Sarah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for chatting with us about
you.
our little movie.